What's the big game you want to play over the next 3 to 5 years? Play it, win or lose. Play it so the next 3 to 5 years is the most satisfying 3 to 5 years of your life so far. When we created Egg, the game was to create the world's biggest internet bank and to float it on the stock exchange within 3 years at a value greater than £1 billion. This game got the whole team up in the morning bouncing with excitement and energy. It was definitely something we could play and enjoy it, win or lose. I'm Mike Harris. I spend most of my time these days either as chairman of a UK technology company called Garlik, or mentoring, coaching, running workshops for entrepreneurs and innovators in literally all sizes of companies, from one-man bands up to people who are trying to make ideas happen in some of the largest companies in the world. Garlik's interesting. It keeps me at the very leading edge of developments in all things digital. And I love the mentoring and coaching work. From time to time I do take time out, maybe a dozen times a year, to give keynote addresses at corporate conferences or engage with management teams of large companies, typically over dinner. Somebody did a phenomenal job for us on raising awareness last week. That raised awareness. That said, you know, the awareness it raised, or what it provoked amongst consumers, was sort of fear, uncertainty and doubt, and you don't really get consumer engagement if you do that. What you actually get is people running away and hiding and burying their head in the sands because it's all extremely scary. And certainly my own experience of building consumer businesses says that engagement happens when you build awareness not based on fear, but based on aspiration, value, curiosity, and fun. And if you sort of step out into the world with an idea based on those things, you can get an enormous amount of engagement, and you use that engagement to help shape your idea. And guess what? That idea can turn into an iconic brand and a valuable business. And that happened to me 3 times.
The idea of Firstdirect emerged in 1988, and it emerged from an observation that a growing number of financial transactions were being conducted by telephone, particularly in the United States. And somebody in Midland senior management asked the question, could we establish a complete bank that way?
Hello, this is Firstdirect. How can I help?
The intention of the Mercury Imagine program is to bring about, as I understand it, fundamental changes in the way the company behaves.
This is a change process, if you like, we can call it that, that doesn't go with a pre-described mechanism at all. It doesn't have a name other than the one we've chosen to give it, so we can talk about it. It is designed specifically for Mercury. I think any company in a high technology environment that continues doing what it's doing, even if it makes continuous improvements to what it's doing, is ultimately going to decline because of the rate of change that goes on in technology. And you've got to position yourself to exploit that rapid rate of change.
Mike Harris has revolutionized the stuffy world of British banking and financial services. In 1988, he created the first ever telephone-based bank, Firstdirect. 10 years later, he introduced an even more innovative concept, an online bank, Egg.
Well, we look at ourselves as business revolutionaries, really. So we're looking, rather than the conventional financial services organisation, which effectively looks at the world as a series of products to be sold, to be administered, to be kept secure. We look at it much more as from what does it look like from a customer's perspective. So how would it be if this industry was turned around and it was designed so that it made sense to customers?
We have been immersed in this field of digital identity for around 2 years now. And with the technology that we've got and with the expertise that we have, I think we immerse ourselves at a depth that few others can really match.
Your identity laid bare. This is your internet status. It's time you took control. Welcome to Kudos.
And that made me very, very confident that the sort of entrepreneurial principles of leadership and innovation that I've been working with and writing about apply even to the most difficult of legacy organizations? Do they have an inspiring idea, an inspiring vision? And do they just project no doubt that they'll ever get there? And at the same time, am I getting rational analysis of the way things are today? If I got those two things in place, I think I'm listening to a leader who's going to get stuff done. That's going to make things happen. Now, to me, great leadership is provoked by a great idea. You see, there are many, many ideas in the world. Every one of our organizations is full of ideas. Our heads are full of ideas, but how many people do you find with the attitude and ambition to say, I will be accountable for making that idea happen? Great leaders, great ideas, you always find the two together. You start with some sort of insight. Innovation, when you're trying to get a breakthrough result, you need to find a need that is not being met today, a problem that is not being solved for however you define your customers. Every entrepreneur I interviewed in the last 6 months, everybody told me the reaction to the idea when they first had it was, that will never work. And most big organizations have got a culture that says you don't get on here by taking risks. That's a killer. I think you should take more risks. I think what I know of IT organizations and big organizations and government, they don't take enough risks. They manage things down too much. And everybody you get bought in diminishes the power of the idea. Because to get them on board, you've got to chop a bit off. Then they're on board. Chop a bit off. You end up with something that's really weak and not worth doing. So when the management consultants told me Egg would never work because Alert had lower operating costs than the other banks, the acquisition costs for new customers would kill us. At £100 a customer, I knew I had to create a brand that was capable of getting customers at £20 a shot, and that's exactly what we did. So Dylan's thought is, he not busy being born is busy dying. And that thought, to me, at least inspires me to never, ever be satisfied with the way things are, but to just get out there and make something new and something different happen.
Mike, great presentation. I think you really, I cannot disagree with what you mentioned about the hot culture. What is your advice? I mean, we are not all entrepreneurs here. We are also employees. So what is your advice?
So I think when you've got an idea you believe in, you've got to pitch it like you're the entrepreneur pitching to venture capitalists. Pitch it like I believed in it, not like it was something that like I personally believe. This is something I will get done. It's not something that's good for the company. It's something I believe in.
When Egg was launched, the Financial Times said he can put 3 iconic businesses on his CV now. I like that. That was another turning point for me because I didn't quite know what iconic businesses meant. So I worked it out and created a Becoming Iconic seminar out of it, just like the way when my pitch was ripped apart at MIT, I created a Perfect Pitch seminar. Each of those started with just me, with an idea which nobody agreed with, nobody believed in, nobody thought was possible. I just had to keep pitching it, and pitching it, and pitching it, and pitching it, until I got a few people saying, oh, that might be a good idea, we could do that, maybe we could do that, maybe it's possible. Until eventually, of course, they're out in the world, they're iconic businesses, everybody agrees that that's what we did. But it just started with a word or two, a perfect pitch, a bit like two of the biggest business stories of recent times started. Microsoft started with a perfect pitch. I want to put a PC on every desk and a PC in every home. That's all he had when he started. He had nothing else. Nobody agreed with him. Nobody believed him. Nobody supported him. Nobody thought it was possible. I've heard this from the horse's mouth, this story. And that little pitch grew into Microsoft. The other one is when Steve Jobs went back to Apple in 1997. The company was 6 months away from being bankrupt. It had 6 months cash, and it was burning it faster than it was generating it. And he went back to Apple and said, actually, what we need to do here is kind of go back to where we started and be different from everybody else. I've got an idea we can make advanced technology usable by mere mortals. And there's some videos around of him doing this, and it's quite an awesome experience to watch and listen. I haven't heard this from Jobs, I heard it from one of his directors. And nobody knew what he was talking about when he started to talk about that. Nobody believed him, nobody agreed with him, nobody thought it was possible. And we know what's happened to Apple since. Started with a perfect pitch. I did an elite seminar. That's max of 10 people. I only do one of those a year. It is invitation only. You have to convince me you've got a really big idea. before I put effort into that. I'm looking for at least one idea out of that I can take to VCs or to angel investors. Or you've got to convince me you're up to something pretty interesting. One or the other. It's a much more high-end thing. It's a 2-day event. I only do one a year because although I do 2 days, 3 months apart, I do like to keep in touch with everybody throughout the whole year. If they're not getting the results they should be getting, I want to know why. And I go in and fix it. If anybody is interested in that, by the way, the only way to get on one of those is to be invited, and the only way to do that is to get on my mailing list. And finally, I do some one-to-one work with corporate executives and entrepreneurs who've already got a lot of money.
Normally I'm asked to speak about my experiences in building 3 businesses, Firstdirect, Mercury and Egg. I mean, they're really characterized by 2 things. All 3 of them valued ideas and innovation and grew primarily through an ability to create ideas and implement them rapidly. And the second thing is their customers loved them. They evangelized about them. They're effectively iconic, as was described in 1 or 2 major newspapers. So broadly speaking, I'm talking about that sort of topic, generating rapid growth through innovation, getting inside customers' minds so you develop a great customer insight in what's going to work for them so you can provide products and services that will have customers love you. And I either speak about those topics as in general, or sometimes people ask me to focus on 1 or 2 aspects of those, like implementing innovation, which is obviously a big deal for most companies, customer engagement and customer insight, which is another, becoming iconic is a very popular title of things I speak about. Or alternatively, for some people it's sort of they've got the communication right, they've got the product right, and it's execution that's lacking. So talking about great execution or excellent execution is a topic I really love to talk about because you can have a lot of fun with that one.